The world-famous Butch and Bob Show.
World famous Butch and Bob Show right here on WIFO 105.5 FM in Jesup. Big Dog Country Radio. And Bob, how's it going?
It's going well.
Going well. We got a special guest. Introduce him.
We've got Congressman Buddy Carter on the phone with us. Buddy, always good to have you on the show. Appreciate you calling in today.
Oh, thank y'all. I'm excited. I'm getting to go home today.
Thank you. A lot going on. I want to start. Recently, Congress kicked out Mr. Santos. Did you have any dealings with that guy?
I did. I knew George, or whatever his name is, but
Whatever his name is. I was thinking.
No, interesting character.
To say the least, that's a good way to describe him.
Yeah.
I was just curious, have you had any dealings with him at all, or what's your thoughts on that?
I voted to have him expelled. I mean, after what the Ethics Committee had come up with, there was no question in my mind. Keep in mind now, we're a self-policing body, so it's up to us to make these decisions. A lot of people felt like, well, he deserves a day in court. Well, he did have his day in court. His day in court was before the Ethics Committee, and the Ethics Committee came out with these findings, and because we are a self-policing body, we have to take action, and we did take action. And I tell you, some of the things are just egregious. Probably what the turning point for me was that he actually had the credit card information for another member and was charging that other member's credit card for campaign donations.
Yeah,
Not only that, but he had the other member's mother's credit card, and he was charging that as well. Holy cow. I mean, how can you be so brash?
Man. What about the guy with the gold bars and all the money? What about him? They're going to get him in?
Interestingly enough, his son serves in the House with us, and a nice guy. I've played hearts with him before, and sometimes we get together and play some card games up here when we get a break, and I like Rob a lot, but I tell you, his dad's in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, if you just joined us, Congressman Buddy Carter on the phone. Let's start with the two wars. Get your thoughts on that. I saw where Zelensky and Biden met again yesterday. He's still looking for more funding, but Congress is holding that up right now. They've got the war going on in Israel, which is, interesting as well. So just want to get your thoughts on those two wars taking place and where's the U.S. stance on both.
Well, first of all, let's make sure we separate them because they are separate situations. The situation in Israel, we support Israel. I support Israel. We want to make sure Israel gets the funds that they need. We support Ukraine. We want to make sure Ukraine is successful as well. But we did pass legislation, or supplemental funding, I should say, for Israel. Now, it did have a financial offset on it, and that offset is that we weren't going to hire the IRS agents that the Democrats had proposed that we hired. Instead, we were going to send that money to Israel. Well, the Democrats wanted just a clean supplemental funding, but I hope what this message is from our new speaker, Mike Johnson, is that he's going to be fiscally responsible, that if we're going to spend money, we're going to have to know where it's coming from. And I applaud him for that. So, there are those who are criticizing, particularly the Democrats, saying, oh, you're just holding up money to Israel. No. Nothing could be further from the truth. We want to make sure Israel gets what they need, but it needs to be offset. We need to have financial responsibility here. And, when $34 trillion in debt, when the second highest line item in our budget right now is the interest on our debt, we've got to have fiscal responsibility. So that's Israel. Now Ukraine. You're right, Zelensky was up here this week appealing for more financial aid and particularly for more weapons. We want to make sure he gets the weapons. A couple of things on Ukraine. First of all, we want to make sure Europe's doing their part. We want to make sure that they are taking part in humanitarian relief in particular. Secondly, we don't want any American troops on the ground. Thirdly, we want to plan. We want to know, how does this end? What does the end look like? And I think that's only fair. But I will tell you, Bob, when I go home and I'm in the district, people are asking me, how can you justify sending money to another country to protect their border when we're not protecting our border? And that's what we are trying to point out to the administration. If we're going to send money to Ukraine, we've got to have policy changes in our border situation. because our border right now is just totally open, and we've got a serious problem down there, not only with the number of people who are coming across there, but the illicit drugs that are coming across there as well, killing Americans.
Before I get to the border, let's go back to Israel. Just the leader of Israel doesn't seem to have a lot of support in his own country, and Biden even was critical this week of him. Where do you stand on him? Can he be trusted? And there was a big report that when that attack took place, they had warning of that attack, knew it was coming. They were very late in response time. What's your thought on all those? Are all those reports accurate, or is that just?
Well, that's a good question. That is a very fair question and good question. And quite honestly, I do not know the correct answer to it. I do know that we've been in briefings and intel briefings, and some of the information I got. I'll be quite honest with you. When it first happened on October the 7th, I thought to myself, how could Israel let that happen? And we've always respected Israel as being one of the countries that had the best intel in the world. And how did this happen? How did they sneak up on them like this? Particularly when we knew that Iran was getting money from that the Biden administration had unfrozen, and that they were going to be putting that money toward funding Hamas and the other terrorist groups, and they should have seen this coming. So that did bother me a lot. Now, whether or not they knew it was going to happen, that's hard to say. I can't imagine that they knew it was going to happen and wouldn't have fought back in some way. But I will tell you this: I've heard the Biden administration talk about a ceasefire, and we've had protests up here at the Capitol all week. We've had protesters in the hallways, outside, everywhere, protesting and calling for a ceasefire. I have to say that I agree with Netanyahu in this respect, and that is that I think there should be a ceasefire too, as soon as Hamas is wiped off the face of the earth. I mean, this is a terrorist group, and a ceasefire is not going to do anything at all for them except give them the opportunity to regroup and to rearm.
And if you just joined us first, this is Buddy Carter on the phone. Going back to the border, I'm sorry, I just had to laugh. All of a sudden, Biden's realized there's a problem with the border. Did you find that kind of funny? I mean, all this time, the Republicans have been talking about the border, and he hasn't been there, hasn't thought, they kept saying everything is good, but now all of a sudden they realize there's a problem.
Well, I think that's twofold. First of all, I think it's in response to what we just talked about, and that is that the Republicans have been making it clear we are not going to fund Ukraine unless we have a combination of more money, but particularly policy changes on the border, on our border. That's got to be a prerequisite in order for us to fund Ukraine. The second thing is that the reason the administration has been paying so close attention, or closer attention, I should say, to the border, is because their own party, members of their own party, the Democratic mayor of New York, even in California, these mayors in these cities where these people are going, they're hollering, hey, we can't take these people. You got to do something about this. And that's getting their attention as well.
We're less than a year away from the presidential election. Again, the primaries are about to kick in. People out on the campaign trail, they've had these debates on TV. Trump hasn't participated in the debates. The other candidates say he should be participating, but have to fight for the nomination, but it appears that he got locked up. So your take on what all's going to take place next day? It's still a year away. A lot can happen, but what's your take on the Republican side? Anybody going to get traction? Is DeSantis or Nikki Haley, anybody going to be able to get any traction besides Trump?
Well, it certainly looks like Trump is going to be the candidate right now. His numbers continue to improve. It's unbelievable. Now, Nikki Haley has increased her presence and done well here recently. Ron DeSantis just seems to be sputtering, and he's up and he's down, and he just doesn't seem to be getting the traction that I thought he would perhaps get. But it certainly looks like Donald Trump is the he's the one to beat right now. I am somewhat disappointed that he hasn't taken part, I should say, in some of the debates, because I think it is beneficial for Americans to witness that. But at the same time, from a political standpoint, I can't blame him one bit. I mean, what's he got to gain out of this? Nothing. He's he's only going to lose if he starts debating.
What do other Republicans up there in the representatives feel is Trump's appeal to the majority of Republican voters?
Well, ultimately what it gets down to is policy. And that's what we have to keep in mind. If you separate the personality from the policy, then you find out that, he's right on policy. He's right. We got to do something about that southern border. We got to do something about our healthcare system here in America. All the things, if you will recall, when he was president, our economy was humming. I mean, we were getting with the program, and then all of a sudden Biden goes in, Bidenomics, and we've got inflation back again, the highest we've had it in 40 years. And when I'm in the district, that's what people are talking about: the price of gas, price of groceries. Holy cow! Y'all been to the grocery store lately?
Oh yeah.
I mean, that prices have gone up, and I hear it everywhere I go. So it really is about the policy, and you have to separate it from the personality. I think just about everybody up here in the Republican Party knows what he's like, and don't necessarily agree with a lot of the things that he says or the way he says it, but at the same time, we have to concentrate on policy.
In national polls, it shows that Trump's leading Biden by 3 points, but Nikki Haley, if she was the Republican nominee, is leading by 17 points. Is that concerning to the Republicans there in Washington that they may not send the person up on the for the Republican nominee as the person who has the best chance on beating defeating Biden?
Well, I've seen those polls too. I haven't seen that particular one, but I have seen some polls that are reflective of what you're saying. But you got to win the primary first. And I just don't think she can win the primary, not at this point. Now, we'll find out a lot in less than a month because the Iowa primary will be in less than a month. And as you know, the governor of Iowa has endorsed Ron DeSantis. Nikki Haley seems to be doing pretty good there. But then again, the polls seem to show that Donald Trump's got a commanding lead even in Iowa. So, I think you're right. There's still a long ways to go. But the next few months are going to be crucial, and I think the next few months are really going to clear things up for us.
Well, what about any of his legal problems? Do y'all see any of those keeping him from being the nominee and running for president next November?
Well, it would have to be something that the courts did and decided that he wouldn't be able to participate or be on the ballot. Of course, we also. It seems like every time he gets indicted, his numbers go up. That baffles me, but it seems to be the case. But unless the court stop him from being on the ballot, I just don't see how he loses at this point. Now, there have been some challenges to him being on the ballot, but thus far, to my knowledge, he's won every one of those challenges, and he remains on every ballot.
Well, it's just like when Clinton was having his problems back in the 90s, was impeached, his numbers went up. It's kind of hard to figure stuff out sometimes,
It is.
Going back to DeSantis, you're a big college football fan, but he's catching a lot of heat because of this controversy about FSU. He put $1 million up there. The attorney general's involved. It was funny. I was watching Paul Feinbaum yesterday. Said Georgia has a better case than Florida, so he was imploring our attorney general to get involved. So, what do you think about all that?
Well, I will tell you, you're right. I'm a diehard dog fan, and I'm so disappointed. I was up there for the game, and if you're going to lose, you better lose early. And I still feel like we're one of the best teams, if not the best team in the country. I sure would like another shot at Alabama. But Florida State's got a legitimate point. I mean, undefeated in the ACC in a Power 5 conference. Their quarterback's out, but, how can you punish him for that? But next year we'll have 12 teams in the playoffs. There'll still be controversy. Number 13 and 14 will feel like they should have been there as well. But at the same time, at least, an undefeated Power 5 conference champion won't be left out, I don't think.
I think that the committee didn't want another TCU situation for like last year when Georgia just blew them out. Even though TCU did beat Michigan last year, that could have been it. But yeah, I sure wish Georgia could have been in there because history could have been made with a three-peat, and Georgia has the talent to do that. But now they're out of it. So that's the way it is. Nothing we can do about it.
It is.
Yeah,
It is.
but we're going to reward Michigan because they cheat. So let them keep it going. That makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? And all they got to do is beat Ohio State. But and anything else we need? What about the district? What's going on in the district we need to know about? The plant continues to be a big story. We had Del Keith, IDA director, talking about how all these other communities are going to benefit from that plant being here. Your thoughts on that?
The Hyundai plant.
Yeah.
He's exactly right. You know, the ancillary businesses that will be coming to support the Hyundai plant are going to have a ripple effect all throughout the district, and we're going to benefit from it. Wayne County's going to benefit from it. Statesboro, Bullitt County, all the areas are going to benefit from this. You know, they wonder where the workers are going to come from. A lot of these workers at these plants drive to work like that. So, you know, you live in these communities that don't necessarily live right near the plant. So it's going to have a big impact in a positive way. It's also going to be a struggle for a lot of small businesses because, you know, it's going to be tough for them to compete wage-wise with a company like that.
Now, these are EV vehicles they're making there. Is that right?
That's exactly right, and it's going to be the largest EV plant in the world once it's finished. I'm sure, you know, somebody will build a bigger one soon after that, but nevertheless, when it is finished, it will be the biggest one. Now, I'll be quite honest with you guys. I'm concerned to a certain extent, and hear me out here. You know, what happens if we get another administration in, for instance, the Trump administration? All of a sudden he says, wait a minute, we're not going to do this rush to green. We're going to give consumers choice in cars and let them decide what they want, if they want an EV or if they want a gas-powered vehicle. And you know, here we are sitting with this big investment here. I mean, I think we're going to be fine, but I just, you know, I got a little bit of trepidation here about this.
But I know the marketplace will help figure that out, but there's going to have to be a lot more infrastructure for people to get on the EV bandwagon.
You're absolutely right about that because the charging stations and you know that's a big concern, and we meet at least twice a year with all the emergency personnel, the emergency management personnel throughout the district. And one thing they pointed out to us that I didn't realize until, and of course, you know, they're the professionals and this is what they do. But you know, all these people, when we have a hurricane in Florida, if they start coming up to South Georgia and their EVs, we ain't got the charging stations to support them. So, you know, a lot to be concerned with.
Well, you can see Mom and Pop on the side of the interstate there, EV charging station here.
How about the Talmadge Bridge situation? I read a story on that all these big ships, they need to expand. Or they're talking about a $2 billion project.
$2 billion.
So where do you stand on that?
Well, we had the Georgia Ports Authority up here last week, and we met with them, and you know, initially they were going to try to raise the existing bridge and then do another round of deepening. Now they're talking about even possibly just replacing the bridge or replacing the bridge with a tunnel, and you know that's a consideration as well. So. It is in the planning stages right now, but we got to make a decision pretty soon because, and y'all know this, the economic impact, that's the economic engine of the southeast United States, is that Georgia ports.
Well, all you do is the Secretary of Transportation. He's sitting there with a few $1 trillion in his bank account for transportation and infrastructure in the country. Just go to him. He's probably got it, in petty cash.
It probably does.
Such a beautiful bridge. They talked about building a tunnel, though. How do you do that?
How do you do that?
I mean, that seems like it.
You start digging. Who's got a shovel?
Yeah. You start digging is right. There'd have to be a lot of, obviously, engineering done to see if it could be supported. But, once you do it, that's the solution. you don't have to worry about raising the bridge again.
What do you just tear it down and drive under it, or how does that work?
Well, you dig under the river, and then you can just take the bridge down. You don't need it.
Yeah.
So,
Right. It's a beautiful bridge, so it'd be interesting.
It is.
Buddy, again, it's been a joy having you on all this year. We do appreciate it. What's your holiday plans?
Well, we got grandbabies all over the country, so we'll be chasing them all around. We'll be in Charlottesville, Virginia, New Orleans, and Atlanta, and we'll be burning up the road in the airways.
There you
But,
go.
they're precious. They are.
I wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas again. We do appreciate you being on the show. Look forward to being with you in the year 2024. A lot going on in Washington, D.C. Hopefully they can get everything. So are you home now, or are you headed home?
I've headed home, and hopefully we'll be with y'all Saturday night. Is that right?
Hopefully. They got rain in the forecast. I got to check with the chamber.
You better check with Dina.
They said they had to cancel one time, so I'm not sure. They're probably in panic mode right now because the forecast doesn't look good. So hopefully they can have it. I'd hate to see the Chamber of Commerce not have the Christmas parade, but I understand about the weather situation. So we'll check with Dina today and get an update tomorrow. But hopefully we'll see you Saturday at the parade.
Yep, be great.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Al.
Take care. All right.
Congressman Betty Carter, our special guest this morning here on Big Dog Country Radio, WIFO 105.5 FM here on the world famous Butch and Bob show. And Bob, it's always good to hear from you. Get that perspective from someone's in the trenches up there in the Capitol on what's going on up there.
Yeah, like I said, he's been a regular, and we appreciate it. Like I said, we're fortunate to have our representatives regular. Like I said, I was thinking yesterday about all the guests we had this year on the Butch and Bob show. Like I said, we had a bunch of politicians, had Herschel, had the governor several times. So we've been blessed here on the Butch and Bob show to have some really, really good guests. So we appreciate it.
Yep, we're good to have them, and we have them on because our listening audience wants to hear from them. You get their perspective on whatever the issue may be. Of course, most of our Butch and Bob shows, as it should be, deals with local issues, whether it's charity, whether it's a political event, or whatever the case may be. That's what most of them are, but we are able to get on the governor and the congressmen and state politicians and things of that sort. To fill in those time periods and hear from them.
And it's good they put it online, so in case people miss it, they're able to catch it. So
yeah, we record the Butch and Bob show, and then we put it on by 12 noon each day. We have it on bigdogcountry.com, and just click on there where it says local news, local sports, and Butch and Bob show. It's on our YouTube channel. We just go to click on there where it says all that on our website, and it's each one of them's recorded and on there. On our website for several days, and then always on our YouTube channel if you go directly to it.
And we had the record-setting show this year. Perry Morgan broke Jackie Johnson's record.
Over 5,000 hits on that thing. Beat Jackie Johnson's, which was about 4,300 when she did hers in May of 2020.
Who will break the record next year?
I don't know. That's the thing about it is you do things like this. You have the congressman on, you have the governor on, you have a lot of important local issues, but it takes controversy to get those big numbers, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, controversy sells, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it sure does.
Say in the news department, if it bleeds, it leads.
It bleeds, it leads. So. in several different kinds of ways. It doesn't just necessarily mean blood. And that's just the way it is. And so, that's all. That's life. That's the reason why if you go to like the Drub Report or AT&T's currently Yahoo and stuff like that, you see headline that's just controversy. It's all all nice and sweet and everybody's getting along, nothing wrong, and no one will be clicking on it. And if you go and read all those news stories on the internet like that, usually 90% of them have an agenda. And so you have to be very careful on what you read on the internet and whether it's true or not, because they are writing it to get clicks. That's what they're writing it for, to get clicks. The more clicks, the more money. What is it always about money? It's always about the money, right? Always about the money, Bob. And so that's what you have to be careful when you're clicking on news stories on the internet, is because it's written by folks who are trying to create or report on controversy, a controversial issue. and they'll write headlines to get you to click on it, and then give a perspective that you think is the truth. That's really their perspective on trying to reach who you're trying to reach, and so you just got to be very careful. Well, the WIFO FM and Neesmith Chevy GMC cash can was found yesterday afternoon around 4:30, I imagine, by Megan Barton, because I heard from Leanne about 5 o'clock saying that Megan had come to the station and got her phone number off the front door here. But Megan Barton and her kids were out there at the JC Fairgrounds, kicking up the leaves, pulling up the pine straw, just kicking all around, and she found it. Matter of fact, she told Leanne that she originally picked up the black little bag that you get at a convenience store, a little bit up, and just picked it up and just thought it was trash and threw it over to the side, and then decided, I might need to look inside that, and they did. We've had that happen before, where people have picked up. Now, I'll put on the clues that it's wrapped, and it's you don't find just a can sitting there. That thing's flattened down, not completely flat, but flattened down, and it's inside of a Ziploc bag, and then inside of a black bag. And but she originally picked it up and threw it over to the side, and then decided to pick it back up and open it up, and by George, she's jumping up for joy there. She'll be coming in today and getting her check for $1,055. Megan Barton, she told Leanne that she has searched many, many times to find the cash can, and this is her first time. So it's a first timer here with the cash can promotion. We really enjoyed putting it on. We'd like to thank our sponsors, of course, the Neesmith Chevy GMC for being our premier sponsor, and our other sponsors of the cash can promotion are Wayne Drug Company, Interstate Credit Union, Bodner Chiropractic and Garden of Eden, Hendricks Hauling, April Banks Real Estate, Jones Prescription Shop, Hog and Bones, and Magic Mattress and Furniture. And so we'd like to thank all them for helping put this promotion on. I got today's clue, Bob, all ready to go here. I was going to read it this morning. I typed it up yesterday and had it all ready for today. Today's clue was going to be a blanket of leaves all around. The cash can is on the ground waiting to be found. And there was a blanket of leaves all over the place, man.
It's been found.
But it has been found. So congratulations to Megan Barton, and finds the WIFO FM and Neesmith Chevy cash can. And the Georgia State football playoffs ended last night. Is that correct there?
Yeah, and it was a good game between Milton and Walton. So congrats to Coffee. That was Coffee's first ever football state championship. They had that big run back in the 80s with baseball and won 3 in a row, but this was their first football state championship. But they had a pile of people up in Douglas.
I'm sure
Georgia,
they did.
Man, had a big crowd up there. So
I'm sure they did.
So if you want to rob a bank in Douglas last night, was the time to do it.
That's the time to do it.
Everybody
was up there in Atlanta. Well, I'd like to see it. Good to see a South Georgia team win a state championship
Pierce
like
won,
that. Just like
Coffee
Pierce
won.
So
So congrats.
That's good.
Perry won. And Perry's moving into our region, so they looked awfully good. So.
Well, we beat Perry the last time we played them.
That's true.
Which was last year. Okay. All right, Bob. You have a good day.
Okay.
All right. World famous Butch and Bob show here on WIFO 105.5 FM in Jesup, brought to you by O'Quinn and Associates, Murphy Builder Supply, Vans Barbecue, and First Southern Bank.